Okay, as promised, part two of this insane, should be made up comedy that's not funny, like horror comedy, because it's been a nightmare. So that works. Sorry, I know the lighting is horrendous, but not really relevant, is it? So in part two, um, my focus is now everything that I have found out after this procedure and after follow-ups and after talking to people and all of these things, and then we'll see how long I've spoken for, and then it could also include my conversation with the head of pathology for the company, a- and potentially with the medical director. And let me tell you, that one was a real doozy as well. There may be some overlaps in these two videos. I apologize if there is. If you're missing any details and something doesn't make sense, drop a question in the comment section and I will answer it if I know the answer. But chances are there's a possibility that I don't know the answer because the doctor never gave it to us. So we'll see. You're going to see me looking. I look around all the time. You'll notice in my videos, I have a really hard time looking at myself because I feel really weird, like I'm talking to a mirror and it's strange and it freaks me out. So I do look around a lot. But this time you're going to see me looking down because I actually took notes on the doctor's notes in my chart. And the reason that I did that was because I want to make sure that you know that even if I am paraphrasing, that I am including the correct details. So I wrote details if I need to. If I wanted to share an amazing direct quote, which might be entertaining, but would also be relevant to the story, because, like I said, we all know I can't keep it to no commentary, but I will keep it to a minimum so that we get the facts. And then once this little series of here's what's happening is over, then I can give you my opinion and my commentary and all that good stuff, because that's exciting too. So, excuse me. Right before I started, I choked on my water. So, if you hear me clearing my throat, sorry. Okay. So, to start off, I don't know why I didn't know until I started doing more and more research, but on my initial um, biopsy and notes from that visit where the initial removal was for the biopsy, I do know why now. In my chart, it defaulted there to areola, left areola. The doctor told me that when I asked her about it, that it just defaulted to that based on the picture that she has to click on to identify it in, like, their system. Like, there's a map of female form, and she had to, like, put a dot where this section was taken from, but it's the whole nipple areola area is, that's not real beeping. If you hear it, it's on a movie. um it's like a that whole area is a teeny tiny dot on this map. So, like, where she clicked looked like the correct location. It defaulted to areola. No one caught it. Unfortunate for me, unfortunate error. But I attempted to fix that in person, so we'll get to that. So, on his visit summary note, procedure notes, all of that, it says areola on that report 6 times, left areola. Because remember, it was on the outer left side of my left nipple. So it says areola 6 times. It says nipple 0 times. So that right there is a concern for me, because I did initially think, okay, they are technically two different parts. They serve one serves a major purpose, one doesn't. Um, and it's very different tissue because of that. But I thought maybe in this case it doesn't matter. It can say areola and it just means the whole area. All right, maybe I'm misunderstanding. But no, in my research I have since found that I am correct in thinking that they're two totally different parts and they mean two totally different things. And that's one main reason why we are where we are, why I'm not trusting, why I'm not thinking that this was done in the correct location, because the correct location was not noted anywhere in the chart. So 0 times. I think once on my original, and I can go back and look, but I think on the original visit summary for the original biopsy, there was, I think, a measurement that included the word nipple, but that was it. Um, 6 times. Okay. In the exam section of the notes, it says, exam done on both breasts. And that was a direct quote. That was not done because I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the last video or if it was in the initial video that got too emotional. I had a gown on. Both were accessible. One stayed covered the entire time. So that's an initial, that didn't happen. Exam done on both breasts didn't happen because both breasts were never out except for when I was changing. And the only person in there was my mother. So then there's the section left areola with faint scar. I unfortunately don't think that I have any pictures that would show exactly where. I wonder if they took a picture after. They did take a picture after the biopsy. So I do have to find that now. I'm talking through this and I'm remembering and I'm going to write that down. Original after. See, this is helping me. And I don't want to pause here because this is the process, people. Original after biopsy. Okay. Good question. Okay. Left areola with faint scar. Not true. Because my areola did not have a scar. My nipple did because that is where the original tumor was removed from, not the areola. So there was no scar on my areola because there was a scar on my nipple. So that's completely false because if he says that he said that, then he may have been, he didn't see it. Okay. I'm going to just keep it to that commentary. What I did find interesting though is he mentions that. So that's a complete lie. But I'm feeling like maybe a precedent was set and this is why some of these have to be here. I don't know. But there was a section in my original visit that had like people present or something. And like it was the doctor and the or people present other than patient or something like that. And it was like the doctor and the name of the nurse or the medical assistant or whatever. That's how those showed up. And I think the one might have said that my mom was in there when she gave me the diagnosis. So he gets the location of the scar wrong. And it says, and this is an exact quote, and it says it big, like bold, and capital is the note. It's in parentheses, but it says note in capital. Note, female medical assistants were present in the room for the entirety of the consultation, procedure, and counseling. So I'm going to assume that means afterwards. So that was more important for him to include than the correct location of the faint scar. Okay. Okay. Under that is the plan. and like more notes on now like the procedure prep basically. So it says, I told you I think I mentioned on this video, it may have been on the last one, that he wrote in his notes, in like my medical opinion, this is the best choice. I am paraphrasing, but something like that. This is the best plan of action. This is best course of action, whatever. Some version of that. But in my medical opinion. Okay. I can respect that. That's honest. This is my opinion using my knowledge and experience. This is what we should do. Great. That was the only sentence that was completely true and accurate. So I'm going to go line by line. I took note for each line on what it was about or the direct quote, depending on what's most necessary to share. Biopsy photo reviewed, question mark. So that was like a standard fill in, like that they would like probably have had a drop down menu because it was like, yes, uh, no. Um, unless they're referring to, did he see the photo prior to me entering the room? So I can't say no. If that's the question, did he ever see it? Then the answer is maybe. Maybe he did. Um, because maybe he saw it beforehand. Because I do believe, where I just thought about the original photo after the biopsy, maybe that one is what he saw. Now that I don't think that's in my file and I would have to check again. I don't remember seeing that one. I remember seeing the before, like when I first went in, and I remember seeing what it looked like when he drew on where he thought the location was or something, but it's like so grainy and fuzzy you can't see it. But I see no inclusion of the original photo after the biopsy, so I have to find out where that is. But unless he saw that, then the answer is no. He did not see a biopsy photo before or with me in the room. Um, I'll explain why I know that in a second. But definitely, in the room with me, he did not see any photos right away. Um, there was a section that he discussed alternate treatments and um alternate treatments like chemotherapy, radiation, doing nothing, freezing it off, like all of these different treatment options. And he never discussed any of those with me. He said, "You're here for a deeper biopsy. I don't see anything to biopsy. There's no tumor left, nothing. So instead, I think we should do this. And then we'll have results right here because, I look under the microscope right here and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, let's look faster. Don't have to wait for them to send it out. Get biopsy reports in, I don't know, it took 3 weeks the first time for them to get them. So yeah, great. Today, awesome." But he discussed nothing else with me. My mom is in the room for all of this too. So she is witness. And if anybody doesn't believe me and wants me to interview her or, me to just like pull her aside randomly without telling her whatever. Like, but she was in there and I can ask her and she can just give her version and see what you guys think if I'm lying. But like, I'd be going awfully far for what? Like, I already told you I don't have a legal case. So why am I doing this if it didn't actually happen this way? But whatever. Again, maybe I'm the cuckoo one. Um, so nothing else. The next section, I'm sort of paraphrasing and sort of using direct quotes, so it's a mixture of both. So I can't verify that all of this is a direct quote. I could look, but I took notes, but I know there were certain keywords and you'll know which the keywords are and what the paraphrasing is. But it says that the pre-op photo was reviewed with the patient, including the identification of relevant skin landmarks visible in the image. I told you he never saw a pre-op photo with me in the room. So he definitely didn't review it with me. And what relevant skin landmarks would be visible, I'd be very interested in knowing. I got freckles everywhere pretty much. And I mean, there's nothing in that area because I get freckles where the sun is exposed, and the sun is not exposed in that area, I can assure you. So there's no landmarks. So, like, had they drawn something before they did a biopsy and they said that, I would understand if I had a giant mole that they were relating it to and saying, look, that's north 3 clicks, whatever. I don't know, whatever they say. Like, it's at the 115 mark. I don't know, like, whatever. This is like when my brain pretend I said any of that. Anyway, again, this is uncensored me, people. So this is what I'm giving you. So you're going to see some of my chaotic brain sometimes too. And if it's really bad, I'll probably edit it out. But there will be reasons down the line I want to leave things like that in for you when I have opinion questions about myself for educational purposes, of course, because I don't care what anybody thinks about me otherwise. Love you, but don't. Um, there's no skin landmarks, I can assure you. I didn't see a picture with him. We didn't ID it together. I told you how it happened. He came in, he asked me where it was. I pointed, he drew, it was too low. We played this game again. Tumor site was circled and marked. Well, I guess so, because he did circle a site and I said, too low. And he recircled another site. I couldn't tell, like I said a million times, based on the angle I was looking at and how faint. He was right that there was a faint scar, but he only said that in there because I said, look, I know it's like not really too visible, but like, do you see that little scar right there? Like, it's like really tiny, but it's there. And that's like the reality of it. That's the little tiny spot that it was connected to. And so I guess technically he marked a site and then remarked another site, and that's the site that he operated on. Um, but I can't confirm it was the right one. So we'll see. All right. So that one's a maybe. We're iffy on that one. The next one's fun. Patient provided with a mirror and a second photo was obtained for confirmation. So, first, we'll talk about the mirror. No, it's not provided a mirror because I even embarrassingly enough demonstrated in the first one how I was lifting, twisting, and trying to look. There was no mirror. And that little key fact is going to come back in when I spoke to the lovely medical director. No commentary. The second photo is a possibility because I think I told you in the first video that when he was asking me where it was and he was marking the wrong spot, and I'm like, so I think I have a picture still of where it was, like kind of. And my mom pulled up a picture and he like half looked at it and was like, yeah, okay. And then like, whatever. So, like, if that's the second photo that he's referring to, then I guess, okay, we saw a second photo, but it was a photo that I pulled up and he barely looked at. So I don't think either one of us gained anything from looking at that one. And we didn't totally look at it together because I looked at it with my mom and then I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So I figured maybe he had already seen it. I have no idea. So maybe on the second photo thing, but definitely no mirror. That's important. Uh, Patient visually verified that it was in the correct location. Well, sort of, because I literally said, I mean, I think so. That's not a definitive yes. I said, I think so. Yeah. So, like, I kind of verified. So, we'll give him that one. The rationale for this procedure over anything else was explained, and the consent was obtained. Okay. Again, this is another gray area in a sort of situation. Rationale explained. The only difference he explained the rationale for this procedure over other things was the rationale of why this Mohs procedure over the deeper biopsy, because there was no tumor to really biopsy because the tumor was removed the first time. So that was the fact that his rationale was there was no tumor, and look, then this way we get to see the results right here today. We don't have to wait for a biopsy, anything like that. And it was his opinion, it was the best thing. So yeah, in those three cases, did he explain the rationale? Yes. And consent obtained? Yes. I obviously signed the paper for him to do the surgery, or he wouldn't have done the surgery, or we'd be having like a much bigger issue right now if I didn't sign that paper. Um, but again, like, it's a little bit of a gray area, so you can interpret it however you want. But the next sentence is similar to one that was above, and that was that the risks, benefits, and alternatives were discussed in detail. Direct quote, in detail. We already know that the risks there was no risk explained to me. It was like, let's get this out. It's the best thing to do. And I said, let's do it. Okay. Um, the benefits were we see it today, and it's gone today if, it didn't go like deep, deep in, because they can do that 3-layer thing. So, like, okay, the I can't believe I'm still getting mosquito bites. I'm so sorry. Itchy. Um, so yeah, like, I did give consent, and he did explain the rationale why he chose it, but I it's uninformed consent. Is and I know that because I had to look it up for my little email for them to fix my chart, but that will come later. Um, Uninformed consent, because I didn't know anything other than we're gonna know today, and if it doesn't go too deep, it'll be gone today. And that's what I wanted to hear. But in detail, no. Nothing else was discussed in detail. And then at the bottom, it said another sentence before it got into the sciencey stuff, which he probably maybe that stuff's good. I don't know, because I don't know what any of that means. Can't comment on it. Wouldn't have any idea. But there was one last sentence that was wrong. It said before the procedure, treatment site was clearly identified and confirmed by the patient. That clearly identified is questionable. No, because I identified it multiple times on my nipple, and he drew on my areola, and it was way too low. It was like nowhere near the nipple. So, how is that clearly identified when you had to mark it 2 times? I had to pull up my own photo. I had to tell you, I think so. I don't think that's clearly identified. Am I nitpicking? Maybe because all of it's a lie. It's hard to see any validity in anything that was said, and any honesty in any of it. So, like, I'm making excuses because I want everybody to know, like, I know there are ways that maybe I'm interpreting some of these wrong, but some of them there's no other way to interpret them. They were wrong or blatant lies. With the faint scar on the areola, because there was no faint scar on the areola. And I'm really hoping that the original biopsy, post biopsy photo showed that. I think the original doctor, who was the only person who's been continually responding to me when I have questions. So, like, if she has it, she can send it to me. Um, but I don't think it was in my chart, like I said. Um, so clearly identified and confirmed. Like, if you call, I guess, a confirmation, well, then I guess I confirmed, because I am a 40-year-old woman and I had turned 40 like a week and a half prior. And I found out that I had this rare invasive cancer and it can spread quickly and it's aggressive and it's okay. I have 3 kids, I have a husband, I have things I want to do with my life. I was like 40 was like my I'm going to do it all. I'm going to do the things I need to do. I'm going to do the things I want to do. I'm not going to let anything stop me. And that's why I'm doing this because it's not going to be all about me and I promise that. And I am going to have fun and I'm going to interview people and I want to do fun things with a lot of different types of people and have a lot of different crazy stuff and I don't know what its point is. But I don't know. I'm like losing my train of thought because I get so sick about all of this. And I could go back and watch this to figure out where I was going, but like this is like the reality of it. Like I just like get so frazzled and frustrated that this is like I mean like have you thought that like there's nothing crazier because like it gets a little bit like I guess it doesn't get a ton crazier, but it gets crazier to me still. So, you know what? For the people who don't want to listen to part 3 right now, you can stop here because I'm going to go into part 3 with like where after I saw this complaint got me. So, hey, pause 26 minutes in. My little spaz out, forget where you were going with that. Still in there. I'm just like flabbergasted every time I retell this story. And it's frustrating. And yeah. Um, Okay. So, original complaint was given to a supervisor at their central call center. If I am repeating myself, it is probably relevant to just the start of where this got. Um, it was recommended by the person who did the original biopsy removal that I report this situation because I reached out to her to get a copy of my chart because that's what I was told to do to get it. And I told her what happened and we talked about it and I don't need to go into detail in case it ever comes out who any of this is, but yeah, I mean it was not outwardly said, but it I knew she was saying that because it's kind of crazy. Like I'm a smart person and none of this was adding up. None of it was making sense. It's like I feel dumb because I'm like he's a doctor and this is all making sense to him. So why is it not making sense to me, basically? So she encouraged it. Then we get to the supervisor. The supervisor is disgusted as I tell her everything. And I start with, okay, he was a jerk, but if he was only a jerk, that'd be one thing. But also, and there was a bunch of this stuff. Um, I don't know if I shared this part, but I also mentioned, I don't know if I shared this in the first part. And like I said, sometimes I'm going to repeat myself because it's relevant about the topic. So if I am repeating myself, sorry if I'm not. Okay, great. um, in that original complaint, I also mentioned what the doctor's nurse said about, when she gave me the referral to the plastic surgeon who then just let it close on its own. Um, I think I mentioned that she said, they can help you from here. If you have any further questions, you can call them, blah, blah, blah. And then as I was leaving, the woman at the front desk said, I feel really bad because people sometimes go to the dermatologist and then they're referred to a plastic surgeon and then they come in here and they're asking um or they're calling in here because they're set up to come in here and they're calling us and they're asking us medical questions and we can't do anything if we haven't seen you. And again, if I'm repeating this, sorry, but it was a part of my original complaint that they told me that, because when I got there and they said, "No, these people call us for help and we've never seen them, so we can't say anything." I said, "It's funny you say that, because that's exactly what she told me you would do from this point on, that you were taking over my care at this point." So why would she specifically go out of her way to say that if they weren't like done with me? Like, I think he knew. Maybe not. Maybe this is too much commentary. Maybe it's too much commentary. I feel like the reason that he would be like dump her quickly because she's going to be a problem. But I was like the chillest human ever, even through him telling me, my husband needs to be concerned about the looks of my nipples, and wanting to send me to his buddy 2 hours away to make him a quick 2 grand. Like, okay, whatever. Not 2 hours, it was down by the shore. I'm being dramatic, an hour and 10 minutes. But like that, he knew. Like, it felt very much like he knew. So he told her, get rid of her. So my original complaint was about all of the, how Clay feels about my nipples, and the um her like completely disowning me, moving on from me. Sorry, I'm looking down at my notes too, so I'm like moving the phone all around. I'm hoping I'm not making everybody dizzy. Sorry. So those two parts were my complaint. They went to the supervisor. But then I went into all of these things that my notes were completely incorrect. On my original notes, there was a problem with, I guess they have to bill through certain people. Like, they can't bill through the original girl. I don't, or the woman, because I keep calling her doctor, but she wasn't a doctor. She was physician's assistant, which I know is very similar, but doesn't have the doctor title. And I keep calling her doctor because to me, she's a doctor. So sorry. Physician's assistant, just to keep people straight. There was a doctor, and it was actually the one that had done Macy's ear that I mentioned, or this ear, her ear. She had like an infection and had to be removed. I used this company, but a different location. I loved her. She was lovely, but I know who she is because she cut like half of my daughter's earlobe off, which was traumatic as hell for me. So I'm obviously not going to forget this. That's a story for another day. That's one that Macy would like to do. And that's going to be another note. Macy would love to talk about that one. And that would be good for topics like mom guilt. And there's a lot of it. And also a topic for show yourself grace. So, anyway, the doctor who they basically had to bill under, since it was a physician's assistant and not a doctor, they billed under her. But I don't know if this is like common practice because she reviews the files or whatever, or if it has to be in there for the billing purposes. I don't really know. I did ask the insurance company, and the insurance company's like, no, they bill when practices have multiple people, they bill through other names all the time. Okay, fine. Maybe that's like standard, I guess. Um, what I did have a problem with though was it was on the chart that basically, I forget the exact words, but basically that she like did an exam herself, had her hands in the area herself, and agreed with the woman who removed it and biopsied it. I don't love that wording, because however she phrased it was like, yeah, I was there in present in the room, and no, she wasn't, because she wasn't even in the building that day, because I know what she looks like and I will never forget her face. And she was very sweet to my daughter. I'm not saying that. She might be the best doctor ever. I'm just saying, like, that's really shady practice if that's common practice for them to say, yeah, I have my hands on it. Because whether it's like an insurance fraud situation or just like really bad legal situation for them to be in, because now she signed something saying that she examine me. So if God forbid that was some sort of lawsuit, which it's not, she did her job, not the one who said she was there, but the original doctor. I wish I could say names. I'm really sorry. I can't. right now. And if I make up names, I'm going to have to write them all down because I'm going to forget them. So if I'm telling a story right this second, I might make up a new name. I'm sorry. I'm very flustered today. I went to the casino today and I had a good time with my mom and my dad and my husband, but now my brain's everywhere. I apologize. So that might be common practice for them to say, but that's like, if that were to be a legal issue there, that is not smart. That's not smart practice. So like they already in my mind have some issues with their charting. But even just the part about him thinking that my husband needs to be involved in the decision of how my nipple looks was not the only complaint, but she was already disgusted by that. So she was like, I can't tell you what's going to happen here, but I'm going to take care of it. She must have apologized to me about 8,000 times. And I believe her that she was sorry. And this is the person who I said in the first video, like, passed it along and said it was above her pay grade because she was like, she had no words for me other than I'm sorry and I'm going to take care of it, basically. Like, what do you, if that was my job to take that complaint, I'd be like, I'd have a hard time even knowing that I worked there biting my tongue about this doctor that said that, let alone everything else about the charting and all. And even she mentioned at some point, which gave me the thought that I need to like figure this out deeper, about, maybe, your chart has been finalized, but we may be able to get it amended or something. We'll see, but I have to pass it along to my supervisors. Okay, let's do it. So I get to, and I did get to the head of pathology, who I think I named her Kim. So we'll go with Kim. Kim was lovely. She was very understanding. She listened to everything I said. She gave me all the time in the world to say what I need to say. She asked very few questions, but did ask questions. She connected with me through common experiences. So she was doing all the right things as a customer service person. And they're lucky that they have her because she was like one of the only somewhat redeeming qualities about anything involving that company. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like the original doctor, I liked her, even though she may have had an issue with charting by allowing that to only say areola. And this person, but they were the only two. And I still got annoyed with her, but she's just doing her job. Like I'm not really annoyed with her. It was above her pay grade, too, I think, is how it really went. So I get to her. She's trying to, I think I explained the whole thing, how she tried to like calm my nerves and say, just so you can get peace of mind, I'm looking at all your documents. I agree with him. I agree with this. And this is before I really knew much about anything. And I did ask a lot of the same questions. How do I know it was done in the right spot? And she explained it didn't matter if he was a little off this way, a little off that way. But then, like, doing more research, she may have been mistaken based on what, if he was a little bit off because he was only on the areola, not on the nipple and not the spot where it was attached. That's a thing. So, um, you know, I understood and I get that she was doing her job and just trying to tell me that everything was done perfectly and answered all of my questions. And if she didn't know the answer, she said she didn't know and she would find out. She even like cackled when I said the thing about, my husband needing to care about what my nipple looked like. I said, I don't know how he feels about his wife. I'm convinced now he's definitely not married, but I said, I don't know how he feels about his wife. That was his thought process because my husband was just happy that like I'm alive. So she cackled because it was not at like, oh my God, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard, but like She speaks my language. She understood the sarcasm. She got it. Like, who wouldn't? Except for this idiot that did it. But like, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? How it had to be left though was that she needed to pass it along. And, she didn't see any of my stuff before. Like she pulled it up while she was on the phone with me. She pulled up my chart, but like she hadn't studied it any beforehand. It just kind of got dropped on her desk. Fine. Like I was okay with all of that. I really liked her. I thought that she was super helpful. She told me that I would, not hear back necessarily that day, but like soon. Then on Friday, so I must have talked to her on Thursday. Had the procedure Wednesday, talked to her on Thursday. Friday, I had my appointment with no, sorry. I went to the plastic surgeon. Sorry. So 9:10 was the procedure. 9:17 was the plastic surgeon. I must have talked to her on 9:18 because then on 9:19 I had my uh appointment with the breast surgeon, and there was some discrepancy there. She said there was no final pathology report. She didn't say biopsy. The word biopsy never came out of her mouth. She said no final, well, I guess the word biopsy did come out. She said no final pathology like a biopsy or something like that. So something showing what he saw, because there is no official biopsy done, right? Because we said he's the surgeon and the pathologist. So there's no regular biopsy done, but there was no type of pathology report at all, more than what I saw in my notes, and then a picture of after it was done, and a little bit of science stuff that I don't know what it means, but I would assume another doctor would understand, or at least have enough knowledge to know, even if it's not her specialty, like to understand. So that was it. So that Friday, same day, I call the office and leave a message for her saying like they need this pathology appointment, like, or this pathology report. Sorry, Mila's in the background yelling. It distracted me. They needed this pathology report, and I did said I'll call. I mean, they were supposed to have given me everything, but I will call them again. Whatever. So now this woman has like already told me, and I forgot her name because that's my bad. I was really fired up when she called me. She did a good job of disarming me, but then I forgot to ask her name again once I was calm. So I told them I need to speak to the head of pathology. Well, they're like acting like they don't know who that is. I said, I don't know, whatever. I don't remember her name, but and I gave them the name of the supervisor who passed me on to her. Whatever. So I leave a message. She's not there. I leave a message. And she tells me that um she I leave a message and I tell her what I need and what I'm looking for. And she did mention at the end of the call, like, tell me when if you need anything, feel free to get a hold of me, blah, blah, blah. Again, in my frustration, I didn't think to even remember her name, let alone like get her direct line, because I thought that I could like call and say who I was looking for and they'd be able to get that person for me. But I found out later that I thought wrong. So then I leave her this message and I don't hear back, and I call back the next week. I believe I would have to get the date because I can't remember, but I think it was like not until the next Friday that the next step was reached, but right before Friday, I guess it was Wednesday or Thursday of the next week. I called back. Never heard from anybody about this pathology report, like all these things. And I asked for the first supervisor because I don't know the other person's name. Then I asked for any supervisor. I said, I need this to be fixed. I need to know if this is missing. I need to know, like, I need to talk to somebody because now it's getting old that this information is missing. Like, I can't get another opinion if I don't have the information. There's nothing in my chart about it. Nobody can tell me anything. Like, at this point, everybody that I've talked to thinks I'm crazy because there is no report of this procedure anywhere other than the few scientific words in the bottom of his procedure notes, basically. And that's it. So, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So I get this other woman. The original supervisor that I talked to wasn't there. They work weird hours. I guess they might have like later customer service hours or something because it was like a weird time for like her to be gone for the day. Unless she had me. I don't know. Not my business. Whatever. Commentary. Commentary. So I have no idea why any of you watch any of these videos. I am an absolute lunatic, and I'm sorry. I'm realizing as I'm doing a bunch of this stuff that I'm crazy tonight. And this is my ADHD, people. I was at a casino today with a lot of noises and things, so this is my like chaotic brain that you're seeing the result of. And it makes it really hard to focus. So I apologize. I don't know why any of you continue on these videos. I would be losing my mind if I was watching me right now. So you're like the real MVPs. I don't even remember where I was now. And that's so frustrating for me. So I'm going to do a little pause and come back. Remembered. Original supervisor is not there. So I'm writing things down so I don't get my train of thought off the rails again. Original one, not there. So I get this other lovely woman who is just like, again, don't know if they're just like a receptionist, if they're, I don't know if they're a customer service agent. I don't know who they are. Took the call. She said, that person's not there. I, she was equally as appalled, if not more appalled. And she's like, oh no, we have to get this fixed now. Like, she was like disgusted. She puts me on hold. She comes back and she says, my boss is on a virtual meeting. She is going to be a little bit, only a few more minutes. I am going to stand right outside her office. And when she gets off the phone, I'm going to go in and then I'll have her call you back. Great. Fantastic. No one calls me. And now it's like 4:30 in the afternoon. And I don't know, honestly, what their hours are, but they're not late, I would imagine. I mean, I don't know, maybe because that woman has weird hours. Whatever, doesn't matter. I'm thinking they have weird business hours. They're going to be gone at 5 or 5:30, whatever. I call back and I'm like, originally talked to this person. Then I just talked to this person who was going to get me this person, and none of this has happened. So I need to talk to somebody. Mentioned the pathology manager, mentioned whatever. No one. Okay, great. Waiting, 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 waiting. And I said, I'm just not going to hang up. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not. This is like too important. So somebody's got to talk to me. The original supervisor who took the original report gets on the phone because, she's the low man. So they're pushing it off on her. So I don't blame her. Not her fault. Um, she gets on and she said, I'm sorry that it's taken some time. Apparently, they're still doing an investigation. I don't know what this investigation has to do with because I know they're not going to really actually talk to him about it. So, what's this pretend investigation about? Our medical director is going to call you tomorrow morning. I said, okay. I said, but for the record, tomorrow morning ends at 11:59. So I will wait until 11:59 because they have been putting me off and putting me off and putting me off. And it's like, this is pretty important to me. Sorry. Like, could be life and death if we ignore like a huge mistake that this doctor may or may not have made. And I'm just trying to get confirmation one way or the other. So at 12 o'clock, I'm going to be dialing a phone at 12:01 and I'm I'm going to get a hold of somebody, and I'm not going to be as nice as I have been, because I was. I've been respectful. I've been handling this. I know, if any of you actually know me in real life, like, I pop off. I do. I had not popped off. I was stern. I was frustrated. I was irritated at times, but I was still respectful, because these are people that I'm saying to you, like, could be holding my life in their hands. I'm going to be as respectful as I possibly can for as long as I possibly can, until I know all of my rights. And then I know that, like, I don't care what you think of me. You still have to do this, this, or this. But I have to do it the right way. Obviously, I'm watching the clock. It's 11 o'clock, and I'm losing my mind because I just want to call, because I know they're not going to call. So why give them the extra hour? I was doing stuff. I stayed busy. This is like maddening to me that we have to play these games for my health. I have to play a game. 12 o'clock comes. What do you know? I'm like half smiling. Now, obviously, not, I'm not happy, but like, now I get to do what I do best and annoy the shit out of people. So I call. I say who I am, why I'm calling. It's yet another person. She tells me the one person, the one supervisor that I talked to yesterday, that told me they'd be calling me in the morning, she wasn't there yet. The other one, that, the woman was going to wait in her office and ask her the question and have her call me, that never called me. She wasn't in yet. No, she had just left. The other one wasn't in yet. She had just left. I'm like, what? These people work the weirdest hours. Like, it's 12 o'clock. Like, what? What? And they're not 24 hours. I know they're not a 24-hour customer service line. So, like, weird. So, puts me on hold for a few minutes. I'll see who you talk to, because I said I'm not hanging up this phone until I know what's going on. She comes back. I'm going to put you on the phone with our pathology manager. I said, great. She was supposed to call me back on Friday. I left her a message. She didn't call me back. It was now, I believe, Thursday. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was the Thursday. I'm losing dates. I can't look right now, because if I get out of this, I have to start again. And who wants to do any of that? So she gets on the phone and she's explaining who she is. And I'm like, hi, Kim. I know exactly who you are. I left you a message last week. Oh, I've been out of the office, blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. I don't care. I didn't say that. I'm just, great. Make an excuse. I really don't care. Let's work this out. I said, well, she's like, what can I do for you? What do you mean? Like, you're the one that told the other one to tell me that the medical director was going to call me today. It's gone on long enough. I need to know what's going on. She's like, well, I know they're still doing their investigation, so I can't really tell you much more than that. What do you mean? So again, my mom's in the room. Tried to record the call. Unfortunately for me, it didn't work. I know you're supposed to tell them, and wouldn't have never been admissible in court, but it would have been like, really, like, so that people knew I wasn't crazy, because that's the theme here. Am I crazy? Don't ask certain people, because they will say. So she's like a little snippy with me this time. And I think it's because, like, I'm annoying and I don't really care, because this could be my life. So I'm going to be annoying. And if that bothers you, that you have to do your job, sorry, not sorry. So she says to me, she's still trying to explain all this to me. And she's like, what is it that you need for that doctor? And she's going on about how it's weird that a breast surgeon wouldn't know how to read a Mohs map. And I can explain all that to you guys right now, but basically it's the diagram. If I didn't tell you, there's supposed to be a diagram with his notes. There is no official biopsy report, like I said, because it's not sent out for a biopsy. It's studied right there in office, and he's doing it right there in office. So they're drawing pictures, they're doing their diagrams, they're doing what they have to do right there, real time. I read in some cases, because I didn't know up to this point, that the slides, sometimes they have the technology to take digital photographs. Sometimes they have the ability to keep the frozen tissue. for a period of time, but that most of them don't have access to that technology to take the pictures. And most of them, unless there's some crazy reason to keep the original slides, they typically dispose of them fairly quickly. So I don't know what fairly quickly means. And I still really haven't gotten clear, but they apparently either have pictures of my slides or the slides. I'm not really sure. They have one or the other, but I'm jumping ahead. She keeps asking me what it is that I need. The Mo's map was not included in the notes. I know that you're saying it's handwritten notes, but that's all they were given. There's no map, there's no picture, there's no drawing, there's no diagram, there's no nothing. Nothing. So there's nothing proving that he got the right spot. And that is what the breast surgeon was looking for. And I'm telling her this over and over again, and I'm saying it in 15 different ways, and she's not getting it. And it's frustrating me. And I'm like losing my mind. And she's getting more irritated with me. So I finally just said to her, you know what? I think I've talked in circles enough for both of us. She did say at one point, now what because I'm not giving too much detail here because I'm trying to skip to the end quicker and not give you too much commentary, is that I had told her a million times that I was looking for that the biopsy process or lumpectomy process after a biopsy was explained to me by the breast surgeon, and saying that she could see when she would go in to do a lumpectomy, whether it was a scar or some level of cell regeneration, whatever it was, she could tell she was in the right spot, that the original biopsy was done under a microscope. She could see it and know that she was in the right spot. So she said there's no indication here of like him seeing that under the microscope or anything like that, because there's no image, there's no map, and there's his notes are limited to essentially what it boils down to. And this is her words, or a version of her words to me about his report, is it basically just says in his opinion you're okay, and like there's nothing to support that. So Kim is fighting this the whole time and saying, "Yes, I can see it right here. Why doesn't the doctor know how to read this? Blah blah blah." But then she is the one that says, "I guess the map wasn't sent," and she's like, "Well, I can send it," and all these things. But she's basically going to bat for him. And she says one time, as I'm looking for all of this, well, I did ask him if he had any question in his mind that he had the right spot, and he said that he didn't because he saw the scar under the, well, first she didn't say under the microscope, and I went crazy because I said no. First of all, she did he didn't see the scar because he says it was on the areola, and was areola, and it wasn't. It was on my nipple. And my dog's gonna go crazy because the dog next door is barking, so I may need to pause again, but we'll try to push through. Gussie, no. Gussie, no. Good boy. Maybe he's gonna be a good boy for once. I said he definitely didn't see it because he marked it as the wrong location, and I kept saying, "Do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it?" So she said, "No, he meant under the microscope." And then I lost it on her and said, "What do you think that I've been trying to mention to you for the last hour?" Like, I said in 14 different ways that we were looking at for some evidence that he was in the right spot. Seeing the scar of the biopsy on the microscope would have been exactly that. And she said, "Well, you said marker, and sometimes with biopsies they put a stitch in as a marker." I said, "Well, we all know I'm not a scientist or a doctor or a pathologist or any of these things. So why would I know that that's the only reason to use the word marker?" And I've phrased it and rephrased it so many times. So that's when I finally said, "You know what? We're talking in circles." And I'm just not about that life right now. So, one more question. I said, "And you can lie to me. You can you can lie, you can not answer, you can tell me the truth. I really don't care. I'm just curious." Standard of care was the big question, and I don't think I told you guys this because I wanted to save it for this part. But if I did, well, then I ruined my own punchline. Standard of care is like a huge keyword. Like, if the standard of care wasn't met, that's where like any certain type of legal jargon comes in and all this stuff. But standard of care is something you want to know about. So I said to Kim, "Do you think the standard of care was met for this procedure?" And she hesitated for a second and she said, yes, but, and I'm like, think, of course you do, but that's fine. I wasn't expecting an honest answer anyway. She said, yes. And then she like hesitated. She said, but basically, like, let me finish. I do based on his notes, and you say his notes are not correct. I said, okay, fair enough. That's a fair, respectable answer. I appreciate that. Okay, one more question then. If we pretend for 1 minute or imagine for 1 minute that everything that I'm saying happened exactly as I'm saying it happened. Do you think so then? I said, and I have witness to what happened with my mother. And she right away jumped and got like a little snippy about it. Well, I thought you said they asked your mother to leave. I said, and we hadn't talked about that on this call. So she definitely either had it in her notes or remembered that because that must have been a key for them that, oh, well, wait, she wasn't there the whole time. So she jumped right to that. And I said, no, no. I said, she was there for the whole thing except for when they cut. I said, but she was there for all of the worrying about my husband's opinions and not talking about the different types of treatments and all of those things. Like, she knows about all of that. She was there for that part. So I said, she said, okay. I said, so seriously, in that case, if it all went down exactly as I say, I said, and I'm not trying to trap you, like I'm asking you a question, which I think is a fair question. If it all happened the way I say it happened, was the standard of care met? And she wouldn't answer me. And I said, well, I appreciate your honesty. I think I got your answer based on your lack of answer, but I appreciate that because it's honest at least. So she said she would talk to somebody and she would get back to me. I am going to wait here for part three, but I'll do part three tomorrow morning after my mammogram because I have my mammogram at 9:20 in the morning on Wednesday, whatever tomorrow's date is. So I will let you know after that, an update on part three and an update on what's been going on. If you're making it this far, I love you guys. And I appreciate everybody reaching out with any help, tips, advice, contacts. Like I said, maybe I'll throw something in tomorrow afternoon with my girls if their soccer is canceled again for the wet fields. Thank you for making it this far. I really mean that. And I really appreciate it. And hope I'm maybe at least entertaining somebody or helping somebody. But all the support has been awesome. And that I can be serious about, but that's like the only thing. So don't hold me to that. Bye.